Hello guys, and welcome back to another tutorial. So in today's video we're going to learn how to make this A-cut mermaid dress. If that sounds like something you're interested in learning, keep on watching and let us get right into this tutorial. So now we have all our lines rolled out for a basic full bodice. So I'm going to start off by marking my nipple to nipple measurement, and for this particular one I'm working with is 6 inches, so divided by 2 is 3 inches. So after marking that out, we're rolling a straight line at that point. I later connected this to my shoulder, but I found that I really did not need to do so, and then I corrected it. So next I'm going to decide where I want the upper part of the dress to start from, and I'm going to mark that out. So you can see here that I later canceled this out because I wasn't going to work with that, and now I'm just going to mark where I want my upper bodice to start from, because this is not a full scale blouse and I'm working with 8 inches, as you can see, sorry, 6 inches. So I'm marking 6 inches across, and then we're going to rule a straight line from that point. After doing so, I'm just straightening out my nipple to nipple line we have here, as you can see me doing right now. Now we're going to start imputing our measurement to create the shape of the bustier. From this point here, I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch, and then we're going to rule that line down to our bust point line, as you see me drawing. Next, we want to go in by 0.75 on this point, which we've already done when I ruled out that line. So what I have at that point is okay with me. At the bottom part, I'm doing the same thing, taking out 1/2 inch on the inner part, and then on the outer part we're taking out 0.75. So I'm going to mark that out and then rule a straight line from my under bust point down to the full length of the blouse. After doing so, we want to curve this from our under bust up to our bust point to create the shape of our bustier, as you see me doing right now. After I'm done doing so, I'm going to start putting in my body measurements. So I'm going to add the bust measurements divided by 4, the under bust divided by 4. The under bust I'm working with and the waist are actually the same measurements, because the person I'm working with for this particular dress is really small. So I'm using the same thing for the waistline here, and we are not going to be cinching this, so we're not taking anything out. We're just working with the normal measurements. So I'm just marking out my hip measurements now divided by 4. So after marking this, we're going to return the dart we have on this point. The dart we took out, we're going to return it back so our measurement is corresponding, and after which we want to go ahead to just rule out all the lines to meet each other. So this is what we have. Now on the neckline area, I'm going to create a slight sweetheart neckline, just because my client doesn't want her cleavage to be too revealing, and because the bust for this particular measurement is really small, we don't want to do too much. So this is what I have. I'm going to go ahead to come up on this point here by 1 inch, or you can go do 1/2 inch, and then we're going to curve this back into our bodies. So this is what we have for the front pattern. We're going to set this aside now and draft the back pattern before cutting everything out. So for the back piece, I also have my lines ruled out, as you can see. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark how I want the opening for the back to be. I'm going to work with 8 inches, so I'm going to mark 8 inches across and then rule a straight line. Now I'm going to go ahead now to mark my bust measurement divided by 4. After doing so, we're going to mark our waist measurement divided by 4 as well as our hip measurement divided by 4. So we're going to go ahead to mark this all out and then rule them to meet each other. We're not going to have any dart at the back the way I did for my previous video. If you missed that video, I have it linked up here so you can go check it out. I've gone ahead now to roll this out. I'm just cancelling out this point here to eliminate any harsh lines. Now we want to go ahead to take out 2 inches on this top part here. This is for our loop area because we're going to have loops at the back and not zipper. And then for the bottom part, I'm taking out 1.5 inches. Now after marking that out, I'm going to rule this to meet each other. So this is what we're going to have for the back. Nothing too complicated, very simple to work with. So our eyelets are going to sit on this side here. I'm just drawing this out so you know that is where our eyelet is going to sit on the dress. So far this is what we have. Now we want to mark half of an inch upwards the way we did for the front. Like I said, you can do 1 inch, but I just worked with half of an inch on this part and then curve it out. So this is what we have. I'm going to go ahead now to cut out all our pattern pieces. So after cutting out all the pieces, we're going to divide the front piece the way you see me doing. So from the underbust area, we're going to cut this out and then we're going to attach this bottom part together to create one piece. So I'm going to go ahead now to tape them down. So this is what we have. I'm going to go ahead to label all our pattern pieces together and then we're going to go ahead to just cut this on our fabric. So we're going to go ahead to cut this out, and as you can see, I added half of an inch allowance at the top, at the bottom and at the sides. For the side seam allowance, I added 1 inch joining allowance. We're just going to go ahead to cut all the fabric pieces out, and then for our CF1 we have it on fold, and then we added half of an inch seam allowance at the top, at the bottom and at the sides. For our CF3, I'm cutting this out like this, and I'm leaving out half of an inch seam allowance at the top, at the bottom, and then 1 inch joining allowance at the sides. And I'm cutting this out on a mesh fabric. So to draft the skirt part of this dress, I've gone ahead to mark out my lines and I'm just rolling them out. The lines are starting from my half length, which is 15 inches, down to the full length of this dress, which is about 64 inches. And I've marked out my hip line, my knee break line, and then the full length of the dress, which is what I'm rolling out right now. So this is what we have so far. Now I'm going to start off at my half length area, which is the 15 inches mark. I'm going to mark my waistline measurement divided by 4. And after marking that out, we want to go ahead to mark our hip measurement divided by 4. After marking our measurements, I added 1.5 inch seam allowance. I did so at the waistline area as well as the hip line area. Now I'm going to take note of what I have at my hip line area, and then I'm going to add it to this point, but I'm going to take out 1 inch from that measurement. Now after adding all our measurements, we want to go ahead to rule this out. So I'm connecting this from the hip line area to the top, and then from the hip line area to our knee break area at this point here. Now I'm going to rule this from that knee break area all the way down. So I'm just placing my ruler at this point, and then I'm curving this out. If you want yours to be a bit more open, like this A shape we're creating here, you'd want to work with a lot more fabric. So for me, my client didn't want hers to be too dramatic, and that is why I went ahead to just make this way. When I marked this out, what I had was about 37 inches in total at the bottom part. Now I'm going to take out 2 inches at the bottom part, as you see me doing at that bottom part there. I'm taking out 2 inches because I do not want the lining piece to be the same length with our lace. So I want the lace to be 2 inches longer than the lining piece, and that is why I'm taking out 2 inches at the bottom. After doing so, I went ahead to rule out a straight line, as you can see, and then from this point here, I'm taking out 1 inch at that point, and then I'm going to recurve this back into our measurements the way you see me doing right now. So after which, this is what we have. I'm now going to go ahead to cut this out. After cutting out the front piece, this is what we have. Now we're going to use this front piece to cut out our back piece. Now for the back piece, I have my front piece fabric unfold, as you can see, and I place this on top of our back piece just to serve as a guide to cut this out. And I'm just tracing this line from this point down to the back piece to serve as our knee break area. Now we have about 5.5 inch extra fabric here because I want the back part to have a little gore at the back, just a little gore, and that is why I added 5.5 inch. So from this point here, I'm marking my zipper allowance. I'm marking 1.5 inches for the zipper allowance, and then I'm taking this all the way up. So after marking that out, we are going to go ahead to curve this all the way to meet each other to create our zipper allowance at that back point. Then we're going to connect this back to the bottom part for our gore. So if you want to work with a more dramatic gore, you'd want to work with a lot more fabric at this zipper area here. So now from this point here, I'm just going to curve this, straighten this all the way down with my ruler to create that shape that I want. You can see that this is not much, but like I said, if you want yours to be a bit more dramatic, you need to work with a lot more fabric. So now I'm just straightening this out, as you can see me doing right now. So I'm done curving this out now. I'm going to go ahead to cut this out. So after cutting this out, on the zipper area here, I'm creating a notch so I know that this is the zipper area and I don't get confused when sewing. So with that, we've come to the end of this tutorial. If you enjoyed watching and you found this video helpful, do not forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not yet subscribed already and you want to stay tuned for the sewing part where I show you how to sew this dress.